Welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're going to be going over the booking screen, and we're going to spend a little bit of time today on the load scheduler. I'm going to try and go into some of the areas of the booking screen that many of you may have gone over originally in training but may have forgotten, perhaps show you some shortcuts that you were not aware existed. I am going to go ahead and mute everybody. There will be a Q&A session once I finish going through both areas of the program. So I would ask you that if you do have any questions as I go through, if you could just jot those down and we'll go back and we'll answer those when I'm finished. Also, if during the presentation, if you have to put your phone, if you have to put it on hold or something, if you just maybe put it on mute, it would be better so when we come back and we come off of the mute, all of a sudden we don't have loud music blasting in everybody's ears. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody at this time. And we're going to go ahead and get started. As I said, today we're going to be going through, the booking screen. We're going to go through how to customize the booking screen, set it up the way that you want it to be, the way that it works best for you and your company. As many of you have different types of operations, what you do, some of you may be moving dry freight, flatbeds, reefers, liquid bulk, dry bulk, etc. So there's certain fields that you may or may not want to see on the board. We'll show you how to set those up. I'm going to show you some drill down capabilities on the dispatch board, a couple of right-click functionalities that you might not be aware of. And then we'll do a rather quick overview on the load scheduler, some of the basic functionalities in there. There's a few things that we've added over the past few months that some of you that may have missed webinars earlier this year may not have seen or been aware of, so we'll take a look at those. So I'm going to go ahead over to the live program now. And the first thing I want to go into and show you today is over time since you've had your Prophesy software installed, many of you may have come in and may have moved around things on the dispatch board, and you may want to reset it back to the way it was when it was first installed. And the way to do that is simply to come into Utility, come down to Clear User Views, and if you simply check off Booking Stops, that's the stop sections on the booking screen, the Goods section, and the Charges section, click on Reset. That will go ahead and reset all three of those views. If you only wanted to reset one or two of those, you could certainly do that. But this is a way you can just reset or reconfigure the booking screen back to the way it was when the system was originally installed. And you could apply this just to current users, once again, or all users. So let's go ahead and take a look, just bring up a load that's already booked actually in the system. Actually, let's come over to our board here and let's just click on this load 8643. So the booking screen that we're looking at now is, once again, is reset to the way it was when it was first installed on the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here. I'm going to move a couple things around the way I want them to be in my system, space some things out, etc. And the first thing I'm going to do here is I want to see the full name of the company, make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and just move this over a little bit, size the screen itself. I'm going to move my stop notes down a little bit. Let's just drag this out a little bit more to see what else we can see over there. I'm going to move the reference field down a little bit. I'm not concerned with this billing field over here, so I'm just going to get rid of it. And I'm going to move it all the way over to the right side, just get rid of it totally. If this is the way I like these things here, I can leave those. Come down here to the Goods section. I'm just going to open up the weight a little bit, pieces, pallets, make that a little bit bigger. I'm not going to use user quantity, so I'm going to move that over, make this pick up and drop a little bit bigger. And we'll come down to the last one, and I'm going to open these up a little bit more. The method I'm going to open up, the description. Go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to make all of these just a little bit wider so they'll be a little bit more easier for me to read. And come down to revenue, my calculated charge per mile, we're going to open that up. My pay basis, we'll open that up. And then in the booking screen that we've got here, which is our version 5 booking screen, and we'll take a look at the difference between the 5 and and the one other one that's available to you in just a minute. I'm just going to go ahead and move this over. Actually, let's just move it right over to, let's just move this, make these notes a little smaller. There we go. We'll just go ahead and move that over, and now we can go ahead and save that. So if I were to close this screen now, like I'll go ahead and do that. We'll close it, and I'll come back in. You're going to see that everything that I've just changed around is now, it's going to stay just like that. So this is how I want my booking screen. Now, once again, you can come in and you can move things wherever you want them. If you ever get confused or you'll lose, sometimes with one of these smaller fields, it might get condensed so small that you can't even see it. Just go back and reset that view like I showed you under utility. A couple of things you might not be aware of. I'm just going to scroll over here. Let's just get that, move that font over. I'm just going to scroll over here. You can see palettes, additional palettes in, palettes out. Many of you might not be aware that our system does have the ability to track pallets. We'll track pallets just regular if you deliver, if you're delivering things under goods and you put 24 pallets like I have in my screen here, we'll track them that way. But if you deliver extra pallets to a location, or you're picking up pallets at a location, you can track those right through the system, and there are some reports in the system that will show you all that information: pallets delivered, pallets picked up, additional pallets delivered, additional pallets picked up. Down here in the goods section, as we scroll across, actually let's just make the pallets a bit smaller. There we go. We'll just save that. As we scroll over here, a couple of fields once again you might not be aware of. If you're in the if you're delivering liquid bulk or liquid quantities and you do washouts after loads, when you set up goods, you can signify that a washout's required. That box would be checked, or if you want to dynamically check it, you could check it off. And then the system would actually warn you that when you went to complete the load, that a washout was required. This user description 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 10. If there's additional fields or data along the goods line that you want to track, you can actually name each of those, and we'll take a look at the preferences in just a minute where you go to name those. But you can name those and you can move those around. Maybe you're moving machinery, and one of the things that you have to do when you move that machinery is you need to track a serial number or something like that. Well, you could use that field to put that type of information into. So those are a couple things that you might not be aware of. As far as drilling down from the booking screen itself, I'm in the booking screen. I've got customer Cole Morgan here. Maybe I want to see something more about Cole Morgan. All I need to do is double-click on the word customer, and I've drilled right into Cole Morgan's record. One little trick that you can do to save you some keystrokes when entering loads is, if when a customer calls you, and let's go to a different customer here. Let's go to, say, Albany. And maybe when Albany calls me, 99% of the time when they call me, I'm going to go to their location to make a pickup. Well, just check this box off right here that says auto-assign the customer as the shipper. That way, when you select Albany as the customer, it will automatically fill them in as the shipper, and then you will not have to do that manually when you're booking the actual load. You can also drill down to a rate schedule. So if you double-click on rate, you can drill right into the rate schedule to see some more detail about that. A couple other things you can drill into right from the booking screen. We've got location here, Cole Morgan, or all seasons. You see the blue diamond is next to all seasons. So if I double-click on location ID, I can drill right into that location file. Maybe I want to get the directions. Maybe the driver's on the phone. I want to read him some directions because I'm not emailing them load information, or I don't have mobile communications integrated to my system, so you can drill in there very easy. Goods information. When you put goods on a load, once again, the drop down is there and you can select them. But once again, if you want to drill into the goods, you can do that. One thing you'll notice here, there's been this extended fields description that's been added. That doesn't actually show up on the booking screen, but for some customers that have ordered some customized reports, these extended notes do show on those reports. We've got customers that move hazmat chemicals, things like that, and they need a larger description than just the general description. They need that to show on a bill of lading or something like that, so that's one use for that. But once again, you can just drill into that. The other shortcuts here drilling into is the charge methods. The blue diamond, whichever method it's next to, once again, if we double-click, we can drill right into that method if we need to for any reason. So those are a couple of the drill down items, and that's how you can go ahead and configure the actual screen itself. There is one other booking screen in the system I want to show you, and actually I'm just going to toggle to it. Some of you may be using it now if you've been using the system for a long time. It's been in the system for quite some time. But if I right-click and just go to toggle screen layout, you'll notice this is a different looking booking screen. It's what we call our version 4.2 booking screen, came out with version 4.2. The other one is version 5. Everything that you can do in this screen, you can also do in the other screen. The layouts are slightly different. I'm not going to spend too much time on this screen today just to show it to you so you know it's there. I'm going to go back to the version 5.2 screen. Before we go any further as far as coming in and booking a load from scratch, I want to go through a couple of preference settings that do impact the booking screen and how you find some things in the system outside of the booking screen. So let's just go into our system defaults first. So you'll notice right here that the screen layout style, there is the 4.2 and the 5.0. Once again, for today, we're going to concentrate on the 5.0 booking screen. And customer search by. You know when you're entering an ID for whether it's a customer or whether it's a pickup location or a drop location, you have the choice of searching on the actual name or on the ID, and this is where you configure it in the system, and this would apply to all of those lists that are in the system. We're going to talk about multi-shipment loads a little bit today for some of you that may be doing those, but there is a setting for when you add a second shipment to a load. By default, we'll put it at the end of the load. We'll put it to minimize miles, or we'll put it in chronological date order as far as for the itinerary point. So that's a preference setting that will impact those. Using time windows during booking. If you're not using time windows, it'll just say arrival departure. You may only be filling in an arrival time, but if you're using time windows, it'll say early arrival and late arrival, and we'll take a look at that on the booking screen in just a minute as well. In the shipment defaults, if you work with a customer and every time they give you a PO, it's got to be a unique PO, you can check this off and the system will never let you enter the same PO twice for that same customer. The same would be true for a bill of lading, for shipper reference number, consignee reference numbers. You can also configure these right in the customer file themselves. If you configure them here, you can go ahead and apply them to all the customers. So this is kind of a shortcut. And then those along the goods line where we saw some user-defined fields, the username quantity, user description 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is where you would fill in that information, and instead of seeing user quantity, you would see the actual name. Maybe we wanted to put in here, let's just put bushels. And maybe we'll make this serial number for user description 1. And when I come back over to a load and we look at the goods, we can see now where it said user quantity before it now says bushels, and we can see where it said user description 1, it says serial number. And of course, if you were using these, you would slide those over to the left where you didn't have to slide back and forth to get to those particular items. So as far as the booking screen is concerned, those are the preferences that you really want to be aware of and adjust those as necessary. We're going to go ahead and just create a load from scratch here. I'm going to click on Book New, and I'm just going to start typing ALB for Albany, and you can see it goes right to it. I'm just going to enter. And notice because I told the system that when Albany is my customer, that default them as the shipper as well, it automatically filled them in. And let's say I was taking this load to Dean Manufacturing in Chicago. Now when should I make the pickup? Well, if I wanted to type in 051414, I could do that, but I could just double click and the pop-up comes up. And some of you may and some of you may not be using this pop-up. If you're not, I suggest you use it. Once you use it a little while, I think you'll find it'll become second nature and you won't even think about it. Today's date will always be in red. So let's say maybe this load is supposed to be picked up today at 4 o'clock. So I'll just make that 4 o'clock. And let's say it's supposed to be delivering on the 16th at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'll just make that 8. AM. We'll paste that in. I'm going to go ahead, well, when I go to save something, I can save this as a quote, which many of you may know, and then you can track quotes in the system. If I want to save it as a shipment and put it onto a load later, I can do that, or I can just save it as a load, which is probably what most of you are doing. So I'm just going to save it as a load. I'm going to come over here, and let's just say it's a load of paper products, and maybe it's 40,000 pounds, maybe there's 1,500 pieces and 24 skids. And if I wanted to rate it, I could hit the rate button. The system automatically went out, looked at the customer, looked to see if there was a rate schedule associated with that customer, and rated the load. But let's go ahead and get rid of the rating, and let's save it. And let's say I didn't have a rate schedule set up for this customer, and I wanted to know, wow, how much have I charged to move freight in this lane before? Well, I could easily just right-click and say, click on lane charge history. And just that quick, the system went out. It looked at the origin, Albany, New York, looked at the destination, Chicago, Illinois. It found that in my system, there's 1,655 loads that have been moved in that lane. I can see my 30-day average, my 60-day average, my 90-day average. If I want to look specifically at this customer in this lane, I could choose this specific customer and search on it, and it'll narrow it down to 1,598. Maybe I want to see how many loads have I done in this lane where I've used let's say a 53-foot dry van, and now I'm down to 284 loads that I specified a dry van on. Once again, I can see I haven't done any in 30/60, but I can see my 90-day average. If I want to clear that, once again, come back, so I can easily check for spot rating of loads and quoting, based on historical charges within that specific lane. I can also look at date ranges if I wanted to by configuring the date ranges over here. So that's something that is many customers find extremely useful when they're spot rating. I'm just going to hit that rate button, and it rated it again. I'm going to come up, and I'm just going to click on View Detail. You'll notice that some of these fields in the View Detail are duplicated over here on the top. So if I'd filled in my PO number over here, my reference number over here, it would have been populated over here already. I'm just going to go ahead and say enter a purchase order number, enter a reference or a pickup number. If I want to put in the type of equipment that's required, I can do that, and just tab, and I'm going to say it was called in by Tom Smith. And once again, I can save it. If I want to put in a special private note, like to the accounting department, hey, watch for detention time, or if I added a special charge or gave a special charge, I could type that note in. That would be a private note that would go directly to billing. They would see it, but the customer would never see that. There is this new customer comments field here. Once again, that's a comment you can put in the customer file. That will also show up in the billing screen. Once again, the customer will never see that. Of course, this is a shortcut right here for view images to get right to document imaging and see any images that would be associated with this load. Perhaps this was a load you did a while ago, and you were just looking to see the images there. You click there, and you could see those images. And then if we click on the load info button here, we could put some special load instructions for our driver. And once again, if we were emailing load info to the driver or using any kind of mobile communications, that information could automatically be sent directly out to the driver via the system. So that is entering a basic load in the system. What we'll call a single shipment load is certainly what the majority of our customers use the system for. I want to show you an example of a multi-shipment load, one that I entered earlier. And a multi-shipment load is, some of you may think of that, well, is he talking about LTL? Well, we're not a true LTL system, but even in a truckload environment, you may put more than one customer on the truck, where you may have an extra 10 feet, you get a couple skids on the back, and pick something up en route, drop it. So you can certainly manage those in our system. So we can see here this new thing right here where it says multi-shipment loads. This is telling me there's 2 shipments on load 1977. And the first shipment is going from Cole Morgan to Allen Materials, from Bloomfield County to Boise, Idaho. We can see the charge is $4,280. And the second shipment on here is from Albany, New York to Bedford, Ohio, and that charge is $630.63. And if we wanted to see a summary, we could click on the load summary, and you could just leave this open. I mean, if you are doing multi-shipment loads, So we can see there's 2 shipments. We can see the total revenue. There are no payments because we don't have a driver on here. We're just dealing with a pending load, and we see our gross profit, the revenue per mile, the total weight, tonnage, pallets, et cetera, right there. If you wanted to look at the actual itinerary of this load, like where the driver is going to follow, you could click right there on the itinerary, and you can see a pickup at Albany, a pickup at Colmorgan and Bloomfield, and then a delivery in Bedford, Ohio, and then a delivery at Allen Materials. And remember in the preferences where I showed you about adding additional shipments to loads, if you add it, where to add it by default. And so if you were adding shipments to loads, that's how it would use that preference, adhere to that rule. Of course, you could come in here and you could simply move them by clicking next to it and then clicking on the move up or move down. So that's a multi-shipment load, and that's a pretty good overview once again of how to of the booking screen itself and how to book a load in the system. There was one additional preference that I did want to show you. This is something that we're testing right now. Was a requested enhancement by several customers, and you'll find this when you receive an update from us in the next couple months. If you come in here, you'll see this. And what this allows you to do is if you have pending loads in your system and the load didn't get picked up, maybe it was supposed to be picked up today, and for whatever reason it didn't get picked up, and you want those dates to automatically be pushed forward. So when you come in tomorrow, the pickup date is now tomorrow, not today. You can configure your system to auto reschedule pending loads, and you can set it up so it automatically pushes the ship date forward or automatically pushes the ship date and the delivery dates forward. And you can tell it how many days ahead that it should push those, and I'm saying go ahead and move them 1 day. So once again, I mean, in the example I gave you, if it was supposed to be picked up today, but for whatever reason that didn't happen, we come in tomorrow, it would show the pickup date as tomorrow instead of today. Maybe if you said push it 2 days ahead and it was supposed to be picked up on the 14th, didn't happen, you come in tomorrow, it's going to make it the 16th. Once again, that will apply to some of your organizations, and some of them obviously it won't. By default, when we do ship this update, this will be turned off. If you want to go in and activate that, of course, you can do that. One other item that I always like to talk about when I'm doing webinars like this is people call all the time and say, hey, Kevin, can you send us a manual? We don't have a manual. We got somebody new. Well, in the system, I don't care what screen you're in, if you just click on F1, the Prophesy Dispatch Reference Guide will pop up automatically. And then you can scroll down. You'll see that there is the complete table of contents right there. You can search it. It's a PDF document. So once again, any screen you're in, if you want to bring up the manual, hit F1 and you'll bring it up. And the dispatch, the booking screen, everything we just went over, you'll see is starts on around page 126. Booking new loads or shipments. So you can go in there and review certainly what we just reviewed today about the booking screen. I'm going to go on now and talk a little bit about the load scheduler. And I'm just going to click right here on load scheduler. There are a couple things that have been added here as well in the last couple months that I just want to point out to people to make sure that you're aware of them and that hopefully you're using them. Let's just do a general overview here. So if we start in the upper left-hand corner, this is where we can configure the days that are going to show up in the grid. So right now I've got it set to 1 week. And of course, in my preferences, if I go into preferences, my system defaults, in the load scheduler, I can tell the system, what to display first, whether I want to display the tractor ID instead of the driver ID. I'm putting driver ID. Days to default previous days to display. If I want to make that something other than 0, I can put that. If I want to show completed loads, and then also if I want to show additional items, additional columns like the CDL class of a driver or specific endorsements, I can display those. So that gives you some additional settings there that affect the load scheduler. So once again, we've got 1 week here that we're showing. We got 7 days in my week. If I wanted to just look at, say, 3 days, now I'm looking at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you're more of a short haul operation, well, maybe you don't want to look at things over a week. You want to look at a course of 3 days or maybe even 1 day. Where if you're more of an over-the-road operation, you want to look at 1 week. Or And of course, you can select whether it's 24 hours, 12 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, depending on the number of days that you're displaying. If we want to go back in time and look at the previous day, well, now it's starting on Tuesday. I know that today's Wednesday because you notice that this is highlighted in orange up here. I can see all the others are in this ivory color. I'm going to set that back to 0, so it's just going to show the week. You can set up groups, and you go into groups under Maintain Groups and set those up. So if you've got certain dispatchers that are responsible for certain drivers, other dispatchers responsible for other drivers, maybe some people do more local drivers, others do over the road or regional drivers, you can break your drivers into groups. So if I just want to see the drivers I'm responsible for, boom, I can now see the 5 drivers that I'm responsible for. I don't care about all those other drivers. I don't need to worry about them. Or if I want to break it up between company drivers, owner-operators. However you want to set up your groups, if you want to set up groups at all, you can go ahead and set those up. And those groups will not only display here on the load scheduler, but they'll display on the regular, what I'll call the assignment screen as well, for those of you that are using that to do your assignments. You're seeing some color coding on here as well, the red a conflict, the yellow a warning. The red is a DOT, something that's already expired. So here I can see for driver Thompson, his physical expired back on December 31st. For driver Williams, I can see he's an owner-operator. He's got a couple of insurances that expired back in February. So you can go ahead and configure in the preferences, say if something is expired, where you would not let that driver get assigned to a load, or if it was a maintenance item, it would not let that piece of equipment be assigned to the load. That's something you can control in your preferences. The yellow are warnings. So here I can see is a physical for driver Harrison that's coming due the end of June, and here's a CDL that's coming at the end of June for driver Lucas. Of course, all this information is coming directly from the master file, the dates that you put into the driver files. And as we go across the top here, we can see L is a license, P is a physical, I is insurance item, M would be a maintenance item. And that would be a maintenance item for a piece of equipment that was associated with this driver in their master file. Some other colors, white. We're not seeing any white, so let's go ahead and create something. So let's just go here to driver Rousseau, and let's go to that driver's schedule. And let's say he's supposed to be on vacation this week. So he's on vacation from the 12th, we'll say to the 19th. He's on vacation. We'll go ahead and click OK. We'll come back and we'll refresh it, and now we can see that driver is on vacation. Now you could have scheduled that vacation, by the way, right from the driver's master file. You don't have to come here to schedule that. But now my system would be configured that if this driver is scheduled with some time off, whether it's for vacation, whether it's one day, whether it's a morning, if it's a local driver, an afternoon, it's coming in late, whatever, well then the system would not let me assign that driver to a load. Once again, that's configurable, but that's why I have my system configured. Maybe you want to configure yours so that it simply warns you. We have this new pre-assigned and assigned. You don't see anything that's pre-assigned in my system right now, but you can see that there's 2 different colors. The pre-assign is there for a couple of reasons. The main reason in this screen why the pre-assign was added to it was if you're using mobile communications, whether it be OmniTrax, Rand McNally, PeopleNet, Teletrack, or our SkyTrack solution, when something is in a pre-assigned stage, we will not send or release that load to the MobileCom system. It will not be sent to the driver. So let's say you are a MobileCom customer, you've got MobileCom integrated, and you're doing some pre-planning. Well, the last thing you want to happen in pre-planning is you want to assign something, take the driver off, you change your mind. You don't want that load going out and a delete message going out, et cetera. So you could leave that load in a pre-assigned status until you got it locked in. Okay, this is what we want to do, and then you would just change it to assigned. And then depending on your MobileCom settings, that load would be queued up and would either automatically be sent to the driver, or you could go in and push it out yourself, once again, depending on how you have your system configured. We can also see the green for en route. Well, those are loads that have been picked up already. I'm not showing you any completed loads. I have those turned off. I find that when you put completed loads on the load scheduler, depending on your operation, it can really make it cumbersome and really put too much information on the screen. So you do have the ability to turn those off. Once again, that was in the file preferences, the load scheduler that we looked at a minute ago. So how do you use the load scheduler? Well, it's actually very easy. You can just click over there to open up the pending loads. The pending loads are going to be sorted from earliest date and time to latest date and time. And you'll notice as I click on each load, it's giving me a proximity that driver is to the pickup point based on that driver's current schedule or current activities. So as I click, you'll notice the numbers are changing. So I've got this load right there, 4149, that's coming out of Springfield, Massachusetts, going down to Walmart in Richmond, Virginia. So if I wanted to actually schedule that load to a driver, I would simply left-click on it, drag it over. I'm going to put it on driver Peters because Peters is 0 miles. It's a perfect match. I'm simply going to drop it there. This is where it's giving me the opportunity to pre-assign it. If I click right there to pre-assign, it would be pre-assigned and it would show up in that pink color instead of the salmon. I'm just going to go ahead and assign it, so I'm going to click OK. It's now confirming the assignment. The screen redraws that quickly, and now I can see Peters is on his way to Springfield, scheduled to make a delivery there tonight, and I've assigned him to pick that load up in Springfield and take it to Richmond, Virginia. Of course, if I change my mind, I can do a couple things. I could just click on that load, left-click on it, and drag it onto a different driver and drop it on that driver. Or if I'm not sure who I want to assign that load to, I can always right-click and say, put that load back to pending, and that load is going to come off, and it's going to go back in the list on the left-hand side, and I can assign that load to somebody else later on. One other item that we added with the load scheduler is dragging between the load scheduler and the dispatch board. So what you want to do is you want to have them both open. So you can see I have the load scheduler open and the dispatch board open. So what I want to do now is just go to Window, and I'm just going to tile them horizontally. And it doesn't matter if I have one on top, one on the bottom. I can do it either way. But the reason why we did this, and people asked us to do this, was many customers wanted additional information over here in the pending loads. We have people that in the tanker business or run some specialty equipment or whatever it is, and in their pending loads view they show the equipment type, and it's got to be some type of special equipment. They know which driver has that. Or they wanted to filter by dates, and they wanted to see just a specific date range instead of all the pending loads. So this way you can drag between the dispatch board and the scheduler. So if I wanted to click this load and just drag it down and assign it to a driver, I can just drag it down and assign it just like I said, and you can see now that load is assigned. And just as I said before, and if I just refresh this, you'll see that load's going to go away from the top. And if I wanted to take it off, just like I said before, if I want to right-click and say put it back to pending, take it off, and hit the refresh up here again, once again the load is back up top. So you can open up both views at the same time. Once again, the way I did that is, let me just go ahead and close those. So I would simply come in, let's say I have the dispatch board open, and then I want to open up the load scheduler. I've got them both open, and then go to Window, and simply tile either vertical or horizontal. I find it easier to do it horizontal, and then you can drag and drop between the two very easily. So what we've done today is we've gone through, we've reviewed the booking screen. We went over how you can customize the views, the drill downs, how you can reset those views, and we went through the load scheduler, looking for how to use it, looking at alerts, DOT safety related information, including how you can drag now between the load scheduler as well as the dispatch board. I'm going to open it up now for any questions. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. Once again, there's a lot of noise in the background. If you could just maybe mute your phone, we'd appreciate that. And I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions. Are there any questions today on the booking screen or on the load scheduler?
I got a question on the customer comments field.
Certainly. Go right ahead.
All right. We don't have that on our Prophesy. My name is Jeannie, by the way.
Yep.
Ours just holds bill notes, special instructions, and private notes. How do we get the customer comments on there?
Yep. So if you would just contact your account manager, I don't want to ask for your, or give me just, or if you want to give me your company name, I could make sure that an update goes out to you.
S&M Transport.
Okay, I'll get that taken care of. And where you'll see that, just to go back, just to show you, if I go into, I'm going to go into a customer file here. So right there where it says comments, here I'll go to the one we're looking at, so you can see where they're coming from. So right there.
That one you could put right there.
Yeah, where it says comments. Actually, if I go to Cole Morgan, I'll just come. But where it says comments right there is where you would put those.
So I could put, like, for specific customers, only does 1 hour free detention time, and it will show up right on the load.
It will show
like
up
an
on
automatic
the load,
thing.
and it will show up in the billing screen as well, right over the where you have the total revenue on the bottom of the screen, the billing screen. You'll see it right there as well. That's correct.
Okay. I also have one more. When it comes to the dispatch screen, when you're gonna split a load. Now, is there a way if I accidentally split something a wrong way, can I unsplit it?
Today there is no way to unsplit something once you split it. You would have to go ahead and delete the load and re-enter it.
Start over again. Okay, no, that's what I want to know.
I would just suggest you capture screenshots before you delete it, or make sure you have the information available.
Okay, sounds good, man.
Very good question. Thank you.
I have a question. Hello?
Is there any other questions today?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
When you add a new shipper and you save it, a prompt comes up and it either says cancel or retry. We hit retry and it saves, but why does it keep coming up that way?
That's a message that you certainly should not be getting. I would suggest that you contact our support team to go over that and make sure to resolve that either by sending an update or just looking at something in your system. But that is not normal for that to occur.
That's not normal. Okay. Yeah. Is there any way to clean up people that are in our Prophesy? Can we delete anyone once we
meaning
them?
deleting customers and things like that?
Yeah.
If you go into a customer file, we usually don't let you delete things because there could be data in the system that's related to them, and so you don't want to delete them. However, I'm just looking for it on the screen.
I've done that. I've put in.
They just move some things around here, so I'm just looking for it. So you want to make them so that they don't appear in the system, correct?
Right.
Like show up in lists. So what you could do actually is if you uncheck them as a customer, uncheck them in all those fields there, save it, then they're not going to show up in lists to be chosen as a customer or as a shipper or as a consignee.
Okay. Like everything. All right, but they'll always be in there though, right?
But they'll be in the system, right? And the reason, once again, the reason why we don't let you delete them is because even though you're not doing business with them anymore, you did business with them, let's say, in the past, and there's information in the system related to that record, and you may want to go back and run reports on it at some other date.
Yeah, but some stuff were entered as a mistake or incorrectly, like where we really don't need it.
If there's a lot of that type of thing, I mean, it is possible for us under special circumstances to go in through the database and clean some stuff out for you, but I would want it to be, you'd want that to be like more than just 1 or 2 records.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And well, but if you've entered it by mistake and you haven't entered any information in the system, and you have permission, you could always right-click, and you will have an option to delete it.
Oh, delete it.
Once again, if there's information in the system related to that location, it's not going to let you delete it. Right, but if there isn't, and you just started putting it in and you made a mistake, you can always right-click and delete it.
Okay.
Okay, as long as you have permission. You may not have user permissions to delete like a master file. Maybe somebody with administrative rights needs to do that.
Right, okay.
So you're definitely going to put in so somebody comes over, somebody sends over the update for our system, right?
If you're with S&M Transport, I am, yep.
Yeah, we both are.
Okay. You got it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there questions from anybody else on the line today?
Yeah, Kevin, I got a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
When you were in the load scheduler and you dragged a load over to a driver,
yes.
How can you do that in a pre-assigned load? Because it looks
well,
like
when you drag it, I'll go back in there. Load scheduler. And you'll notice when I drag it over, so I'll drag that same one over. I'll drop it on Peter's. Right there it says, do I want to pre-assign it? So I'll check that box right there, click OK, and I'll click OK again. Now you're going to see it's pre-assigned.
Okay.
And once I've locked it in, I say, okay, yes, that's the way I want it. I can right-click and I can say, go ahead and change it to assigned, and now it's assigned from pre-assigned.
Okay. The other
so if you're who I think you are, you're putting in Rand McNally, so this is something that you would want to do.
yeah. That's why I was looking at. We're kind of looking at that a little more. One other thing that I got, and this may just be technical, on the booking screen, down where the charges are.
Okay.
It's kind of weird, but where your miles are, like you get the loaded mile or method description miles, ours does not allow us to put tenths of a mile.
That's because you've got it turned off. If you go into your preferences, and I believe it's in, I think it's in rating. You probably have it set to round rating to nearest mile.
No,
you go in and
it up. It's unchecked. It is unchecked.
It is unchecked?
Yeah.
Well, if it's unchecked, then I would suggest to you that you contact somebody in support and have them look at that. Because as long as that's unchecked, and you're not using user-defined miles at all, is that correct?
Well, we do on some, yeah, but I mean it's not forcing the user-defined. And actually, when we have a user-defined mile and we utilize that, it comes over as a rounded mile when it goes into that field.
Yep.
It doesn't.
Yeah, there's no reason why it shouldn't. As long as that's not checked off, that preference setting I just showed you under rating, it should let you put the tenths in there, and I can certainly have somebody from support contact you and go over that.
Yeah, and I'd submitted that through the help desk, and I think Brian was looking at it, but
I'm sure Brian will get back to that.
Yeah, it was just kind of weird because I noticed when you were in there, I seen tenths. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, it can do tenths.
It absolutely will do tenths. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Good
does
enough.
anybody else? Thank you very much. Do you have another one?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Questions from anybody else today?
I have a question.
I have a question.
Either one of you, go ahead.
When you duplicate the current shipment as load, is there any way in the preferences you can turn off that it automatically puts today's date in?
Yeah.
When you put a shipment on hold, is there any
No,
way
when you
that it...
duplicate the current shipment as load. When you right-click and then you duplicate the current shipment as a load.
Okay.
It automatically puts today's date in.
Okay.
Is there any way to turn that off so you can put your own date in?
A good suggestion. I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up to development. There is not a setting that I'm aware of in the system today to do that.
Okay.
You want a preference to just have it leave the dates blank because you want to fill them in. Is that right? Sure. And let me just make a good point to everybody here. That's a great suggestion. And 95% of the development work that we do in this building every day is a direct result of the type of suggestion that was just made. You don't have to wait for sessions like this to make those kind of suggestions. You can email those in at any time. You can send them to me. You'll get my email address at the end of this session. You can send them to your account manager. That's the best way to do it. We do meet as a group from sales, development, support, services. We meet on a monthly basis, and we go over all of those items that are sent in, and we will follow up with you, let you know if they're scheduled for future development or what kind of feedback there was. Another way to get feedback would be, and I'm going to talk about this a little more, is to attend our annual users group, which is coming up in September, and I'll talk about a little bit more about that in just a minute. Are there any other questions?
I have a question. In the goods field, when you scrolled over and showed that it had the tank wash required,
Yes.
is there any way other than to connect that to the customer so that the load?
Well, you can connect it to the goods. So if you go into, let's just go into the goods file here. So if you were setting something up that required a washout after you hauled it, you would just say trailer washout required after hauling, and you would check it off like that. And then by default, that box would be checked, and when you went to complete a load, the system would actually remind the dispatcher that a washout's required. There'd be a section at the bottom of the screen for them to fill out when the washout was done, where it was done, the date it was done, the type of washout that was done. Also, if you go into that trailers file, you would see a history of all the washouts that were done on that trailer. If you tried to assign that trailer to a load before that washout was done, a warning would come up or a prevent assignment would come up, depending on how you have your preferences set, telling the dispatcher that that washout had not been completed yet.
Okay.
All great questions. Any other questions this afternoon? Okay, well, let's, if any of you do want to take a deeper dive in anything that we looked at today and have some training with one of our trainers, we do offer, WebEx training online. You can purchase that in 1 hour increments. That's different than support. It's actually training. So if you want to learn more about a deeper dive in how to set that up for washouts based on what I just shown you, you can purchase additional training. You can do that over the web. We have a great training facility. I know many of you have been here to Connecticut for training. You can come here for a day or 2 days. We recommend minimum for training. We also have our consultants that go to your location and will do training, especially for those of you that have been using the software for a while. A lot of times they'll have one of our implementation training consultants come on site and spend a day with your operations people, maybe a day with your back office people, going over the software, learning best practices, ways that you can get more out of the software than you're getting today. Another way to get a lot of training and learn a lot about what we do, both here at Prophesy, and learn more about Excelos and what Excelos can offer you, is to attend our user group. Our user group this year is coming up. It's the 3rd week in September, and it's in Denver, Colorado. All of you should have received information on that by now. If you haven't, or if you missed it, you'll certainly see it, or you could go to our website to learn more about that. The registration is open. The early bird registration is open. It's really 3 days of intensive training on the Prophesy software. So I would encourage as many of you as possible to come out and attend the user conference. Last year we had 250 plus people that attended the user conference in Chicago, and I know that all of those people walked away and were very satisfied with what they learned there. I do want to thank all of you for attending today's session. We certainly appreciate your business. We hope that you'll attend future webinars like this. We do them every month. They are for you, our customers. They're part of your complete care plan. If there are specific items that you would like to see covered in sessions like this, please send me an email. You can see my email address right there on the screen, or give us a call, and we'd love to work those in. Once again, I want to thank you all for attending, and we look forward to seeing you next month and seeing you at Visions 2014 in Denver in September. Thanks again.